We want to use our agreement with Kinder Morgan as a springboard to other economic development.
Tonight, some are for, some are against. We'll bring you on our road trip along the route of the Kinder Morgan pipeline to hear directly from the people in the communities.
I know for a fact that us men will try to hide our feelings, even though we do need help as much as we can.
And a mobile recording studio gives a platform for Indigenous youth in the Yukon. Good evening, I'm Beverly Andrews. Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion is under intense scrutiny. The federal and Alberta governments want the line built, but the BC government is pushing back, saying they don't want it until it can be proven safe. Well, what about the communities that sit on the pipeline route? This week, APTN is traveling along the pipeline for the viewpoint of what people there think about the project. And the first stop is the Cheeham First Nation, which has signed on to the pipeline. Tamara Pimentel has their story.
It's the first catch of the year, and the salmon is smoked and placed over cedar boughs, ready for the annual salmon ceremony, where it will be shared amongst Cheeham First Nation. Cheeham, 100 kilometers east of Burnaby, is one of nearly 150 Indigenous communities along the controversial Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion route. It's also one of the 43 First Nations to sign an agreement with Kinder Morgan to build the line. For the Stolo people, salmon are sacred, and Kinder Morgan's plan to triple the capacity of the pipeline has raised concern about the impacts on salmon.
I don't see a conflict.
But Chief Ernie Cray says he doesn't think pipelines will have an impact, since the Trans Mountain has run through Cheeham since 1953, and these fish were caught in the waters that run alongside the route of the pipeline.
We told them that there were lots of issues they had to be mindful of as the pipeline was to be constructed if it was to go ahead. We have our own values and traditions and practices. So, for instance, salmon-bearing streams, we told them, would need to be afforded maximum protection.
Cray says Cheeham signed a non-disclosure agreement and can't discuss specific sums, but he says it will help in the long run, provide new infrastructure, and create more employment opportunity for his members.
We want to use our agreement with Kinder Morgan as a springboard to other economic developments.
The pipeline fight has divided many Indigenous communities, and that's no exception in Cheeham. Cray toured APTN around the reserve with a security truck nearby. He said community members wouldn't feel comfortable with our cameras rolling past their homes. Those gathering at the salmon ceremony told APTN it isn't a time or place to comment about the pipeline. But down the road, we met one resident who doesn't agree with the leadership's decision to support the Kinder Morgan expansion.
Ernie Cray does not represent the Cheeham community values and principles, the things that we've worked on since time immemorial.
Edna Denise Douglas says the benefits won't equal the harm that will linger.
I'm not going to change my mind on the pipeline because I don't see an infinite future for fossil fuels and digging it up out of the earth. As a matter of fact, digging things out of the earth defies our cultural principles.
The pipeline isn't the only way oil goes through the community. Right now, a train runs through the heart of Cheeham every 30 minutes, carrying oil through traditional territory. Cray says pipelines are less likely to cause harm than this.
If there was a major derailment of these tanker cars, all that dilbit, all of that bitumen is going to go into the Fraser River, and it's going to flow all the way out into the Salish Sea. That's a more dangerous way to move this product than in a contemporary, up-to-date, second-to-none pipeline.
Cray says oil will be transported from Alberta to BC no matter what, and says pipelines are the way to go. Trudeau and Alberta Premier Rachel Notley have said they're willing to invest in the line to keep it alive. Cray says he's willing to do the same.
Why aren't we the ones that are investing in these things? Why aren't we the ones managing these things? And more than that, while we're doing that, why aren't we the co-managers, co-regulators with the federal government? Like, are we missing something here? And so that's where we're going. I can't say that will happen, but I'm saying that's a goal that I have in mind. But I need the support of my community and council and the other First Nations, and so I'm pursuing that like right now.
Meanwhile, as this ceremony comes to an end, the remains of the first caught salmon are returned to the river to ensure its return back to the people of Chiam.
Now, there are some communities in this region who refuse to sign an agreement with Kinder Morgan. As we head northeast along the Trans Mountain Pipeline route, we'll bring you more perspectives with more Indigenous communities along the way. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, near the Coquihalla Highway.
Canada gets a failing grade when it comes to its nuclear waste at the Chalk River Lab, just 2 hours northwest of Ottawa. That's why over 40 First Nations and environmentalists have put a call out to an international agency for help. Here's Annette Francis with those details.
Citizen groups, First Nations and environmentalists are speaking out once again. They've come to Parliament Hill to raise their concerns of the approved plans to entomb a defunct nuclear reactor by burying it in concrete beside the Ottawa River. Lynn Jones is a member of the Concerned Citizens of Renfrew County and area. She says Canada has a big problem when it comes to nuclear waste.
Up at Chalk River there are close to 500,000 cubic meters of radioactive waste that has been irradiated. That's different from the fuel. It's old reactor cores buried in the sand. It's buildings. It's parts of reactor buildings. And it's very, very highly toxic.
That's why they've written the International Atomic Energy Agency to step in. Jones says the agency has strict guidelines when it comes to storage, so they're hoping it can help Canada put policies and strategies in place.
We have asked the agency to urgently investigate Canada's handling of nuclear waste. And we've also asked the IAEA to review Canada's nuclear governance, how our decisions are being made about nuclear waste.
Patrick Nadeau is the executive director for the Ottawa Riverkeeper. He says over 40 First Nations and organizations have signed the letter because they believe Canada has failed to meet its obligations in the management of nuclear waste.
That Canada does not have, does not have a policy for its non-fuel nuclear waste, which amounts to hundreds of thousands of meters cubed of waste in this country. So the specific projects we're discussing this morning are being put forward in the absence of a federal policy.
According to Deputy Grand Chief Glenn Hare of the Anishinaabe Nation, they're standing in solidarity for the protection of the water.
A great number of the communities we represent in Ontario here, we know so very well what it's like to have boiled water in our communities. Water that we can't drink and bathe in to keep our kids clean. That's something to look forward to if we don't do something on this thing.
As this small rally ends, Deputy Grand Chief Hare says a delegation of chiefs are speaking at the United Nations about the impact of nuclear waste on Indigenous peoples. In the meantime, this group awaits a response from the International Atomic Energy Agency. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
A young boy who was lost on February 21st in Ontario when the van his mother was driving got caught in the flooding of the Grand River has been found. An extensive search involving hundreds of people took place over the last several weeks to search for Caden Young near Orangeville in southern Ontario. The 3-year-old was swept away by floodwaters of the Grand River. On April 21st, the remains of a young male was found approximately 10 kilometers downriver by a local angler near Belleville. The next day, Caden's mother wrote on Facebook the search had finally come to an end and thanked all who had helped look for her son. An autopsy will be performed in Toronto. Yukon youth got a taste of the rock star life, making their own music video. We'll talk to the talent after the break. But first, your weather lookout for tomorrow. Sunny in Charlottetown on +12, also sunny in Fredericton and +18. Inukjuak has some flurries and -4, Cartwright cloudy and +8. Partly cloudy and +10 in Saguenay, more cloud in Montreal and +17. Cloudy and +14 in Sarnia, partly cloudy and +17 in Ottawa. Sudbury is also cloudy at +13, partly cloudy and +3 in Sioux Lookout. Sunny in Manitoba, Churchill +2, Norma House +4. A little cloud in Gimli Harbour and +11, Winnipeg sunny and +9. Sunny and 16 in Regina, Saskatoon and North Battleford also sunny, +17. Cloudy in Uranium City and +10, Buffalo Narrows is partly cloudy and +17. The federal Democrats will once again try to force the issue of a papal apology in the House of Commons this week. Charlie Angus says that he will put forward a motion to debate the issue on Thursday. The NDP wants the government to be more forceful in explaining why an apology is necessary to residential school survivors. The motion last week, along similar lines, was scuttled by the Conservatives. Angus says it's worth trying again.
Why is this so important? Because what we've seen through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission findings, the horrific death rates of Indigenous children, the horrific levels of abuse that happen in Catholic institutions, and the fact that this was a formal agreement between the federal government and the Catholic Church working together to destroy Indigenous identity by the forcible removal of children from their families, which represents one of the key elements in defining what is a genocide.
Some Yukon youth got a feel for what it's like to be a recording artist. The Yukon Tour and its mobile recording studio made a stop in the Yukon to give Indigenous youth a voice by creating their own music video. Shirley McLean has more.
It's a red carpet kind of evening for these Yukon youth as they take the stage in celebration of their musical achievements. Tonight, their music videos are making their debut on the big screen to a crowded house of supporters. The youth from 3 Yukon communities spent 4 days each with Nwinjinan over the last month creating music videos that reflect their daily lives in the communities of Pelly Crossing, Watson Lake, and Whitehorse.
It's my passion and it helps me relieve stress when I sing aloud, and I don't know, I just love singing.
Inspiring singer Angel Rear saw it as an opportunity to learn about songwriting with her Whitehorse peers.
I wanted to know what it felt like to write a song and have it actually finished, because I used to write songs when I was young and none of them really finished at all. So it was pretty neat to actually have a beat and everything with it. A young father and raise my brothers. There was abuse in my home, it really changed my mother. Our trail blazing, a fire with determination.
Recently I started making my own lyrics, which actually is I found a good way for me to vent some anger and stuff like that out, which I am happy for.
19-year-old Daniel Hager from Whitehorse writes his own hip-hop lyrics. His rap reflects a time when he was 12 years old and had to become the man of the house.
I know for a fact that us men will try to hide our feelings, even though we do need help as much as we can. And it just really bugs me. But I'm trying to help these kids find a way to release their emotions lyrically.
Nwinjinan is a Cree word from James Bay, meaning we live here, and many of the songs kids have written deal with more than your average teenage angst, like bullying, girls being sexualized, and suicide. But Angel Rear says the Whitehorse crew wanted to write a song that reflected on the brighter side of life. Their song is titled Growing Young.
We kind of wanted to push a little bit away from that, so that's why we tried to make it a bit more positive about growing up, like growing young. And because after he played us a few of the songs, we noticed that a lot of it was just negative, and everyone was singing about bad things and suicidal stuff, and I don't know, we just need some hope and love.
The Yukon songs are included on an 18-track album called Dream Keepers, featuring over 170 First Nations youth from across the nation. The album was launched earlier this week on iTunes. Shirley McLean, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
We'll find out just who owns all that data you've been uploading to social media after the break. But first, let's look at the rest of tomorrow's weather outlook. Sunny at +12 in High Level, sunny in Grand Prairie and +6. More sun in southern Alberta, Red Deer +19, Lethbridge +18. Sun and +18 in Campbell River, sunny and +23 in Kamloops. Prince George and Fort Nelson partly cloudy and +11, Smithers also cloudy, +12. Cloud in Whitehorse +7, more cloud and +5 in Rock River. Norman Wells is 0 and cloudy, Fort Resolution has more cloud and +6. Tuktoyaktuk is cloudy at -6, Colville Lake partly cloudy, -4. Cambridge Bay is sunny and -14, some snow and -2 in Arviette. Cape Dorset and Resolute both cloudy and -15. Public trust in Facebook has plunged in the wake of revelations that millions of users have had their data illegally obtained by a political research firm. The scandal shines a spotlight on the rights of social media users to the content and images they post. So how many of us really read the terms of service of these sites, and exactly who owns the selfie you're uploading? Here's our colleagues at Maori Television to tell us.
Yeah. 25,000. That's how many selfies millennials like Jess and Wiki are expected to take in their lifetime.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, that's believable.
All good? Tēnā tātou katoa, I tēnei wā kei te whakarite mātou te kapatihi, I tā mātou hōtaka ara kōrere Aotea.
Sure, we're not all TV presenters and beauty queens, but for many of us, self-marketing with social is part of the job.
Nā kei koe au, ko Jess. Kia ora. Tēnei wā, tēnā koe Jess, ka hawa mahi te rānei.
Kia ora te whānau.
I probably post one a week, but mostly that's because I have to promote different brands that sponsor me.
Kia utere mai mo te roangake o ngā kōrero ka puta hei te paupautanga o te rā.
Yay, that'll do.
An image, your image, will generally get more likes and shares than a text post.
Oh, 2 comments.
But once that pic is on social media, what rights do you have to it? Do you still own it?
Do you think that you should own the images you post?
I would like to, but I understand you can't really do that when you sign up to a social media website.
Jess is somewhat right, but here's where it gets murky.
Good.
Let's say Wiki snaps a photo of Jess, and Jess uploads that photo to her Instagram or Facebook. Who owns the image?
Showtime! So I would say the person who is in the image as well as the social media website.
What would you say if the correct answer was the person who took the photo?
The person who took the photo.
Owns
but
it.
what if that's so weird?
So what if they're using the phone, someone else's phone, to take a photo of
That is a great question that deserves an answer, and we will put that to the lawyer coming up next.
If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear, the camera's here.
So if Jess has paid Wiki to take the photo of her, then Jess owns it. How to establish the ownership of copyright is usually when someone puts that C symbol, which everyone knows. But to enforce that ownership, so if Jess says, I want to enforce my ownership of that copyright, then you have to go to the court to prove that. in most scenarios. But if we're talking about Wiki and Jess as friends, that's unlikely to happen. Bearing in mind as well that if it goes on Jess's Facebook page, then Jess is the owner of that.
Under its terms of service, Facebook says as a user, all content you publish belongs to you. But what else?
Have you just read the terms of service for all those social media platforms that you're with?
No, I haven't read the terms of service.
I can't say I have either. They
Yeah.
just kind of go, yep, create.
Ain't got no time for that.
Yeah.
So terms of service are basically the rules upon which we use platforms. So 99% of us will just click through and just go through all the language and not usually read it.
What do these words mean? Non-exclusive?
So non-exclusive would be for everyone?
Yeah, does that come down to the private public thing again?
So non-exclusive means not between the both of you, not only between the both of you. So basically, again, using a social media platform like Facebook, basically you're granting them the right to use your content in any manner.
Transferable?
Transferable. Transferable? In what context though?
Yes.
And transferable means that that platform can use, again, your platform in any manner. So if it goes from Facebook to Handbook, so it becomes the new Facebook of the world and Facebook sells to a new platform, they can transfer all of your content and all of the rights that you've signed up to the new platform.
Sub-licensable.
Oh, that's a silly word.
Sub-licensable, again, kind of means the same thing as transferable. So your content can be passed on to third parties. So most of the time you won't know who they are. They'll be clients of the platform that you're using.
Royalty free, yeah, I've heard that. But I've only used that term with music.
Yeah.
So, it's free to use Facebook, it's free to use Instagram and most social media platforms. That's what royalty-free means, that you don't pay them for the service, but bearing in mind they do make their money again from selling what you use and your experience on their platform to other people.
Worldwide license.
I don't know.
But worldwide license means that you're basically given the right that anytime you sign up, it's not just in New Zealand, but Facebook worldwide.
If you read the terms of service, you would have read all of those words.
Okay.
Which give to those social media sites the right to do whatever they want with your image.
Wow.
Oh.
The reality is, if I've been in a kapahaka competition, my image has been used, have I got the resource at my disposal to go and sue someone that's used it? Unlikely. So you try emailing Mark Zuckerberg or his staff who are based out of San Francisco, very fraught with difficulty. I doubt as well there will always be time delays, there's always costs. So it is very difficult, and that's the short answer.
The other short answer?
Delete, and deactivate.
Unless your image was shared, in which case it'll stay online. Remember, you gave an implied right under the terms of service.
Read the terms and conditions.
Don't be like us.
So it sounds like it's best to stay mindful for whatever you're posting and what that site or app may do with it. And that wraps up the APTN National Newscast for this Monday. We'll be taking you to the communities along the Kinder Morgan pipeline all week, so stay tuned for more from the people on the front lines. And following the newscast, an encore presentation of APTN Investigates Cowboys and Pretendians. Thank you for watching. I'm Beverly Andrews. Have a wonderful evening.